their day. They didn't calculate their day like, oh, I get off work today at 12 a.m. or I get off of work today at 3 p.m. They didn't calculate their time like that. This is why they give you a span of time, because that span of time in their time calculates to the same thing. But they're not under. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna add, like, you're 100% right. Like, I need to stop saying like be more. No, like, but I would have sat at that table and asked him, okay, you have all of these time frames and these things that you find to be contradictions. That's fine. But let's ask the big boy questions now. You're asking me about time frames, but if I asked you about, did Jesus rise? Can you disprove? Because if he says no, I don't know. Can you disprove it? Can you disprove it? Can you show me evidence? Because we're talking about what time he was crucified. Was he crucified?
Yeah, and you're an atheist. You're an
atheist talking to me about my doctrine, and now I'm telling you, if he was crucified at 12 o'clock, if he was crucified at 6 p.m., if he was crucified at 3 a.m., did he rise? And if you say no, show me the evidence. No, don't move. No. We're gonna move, because this is a hamster wheel that you want me to run on, so you could be like, perform for me, Christian. Like, run. Let us see you run. I'm not about to do that with you. And if you don't want to answer my questions, because we talk about my doctrine, we talk about my Jesus, we talking about the Bible. If you don't want to answer my questions, then what we talking about? Because you don't know, you don't believe, right?
Exactly. Exactly. All right, let's get to the next clip. This next clip is from Neil. He's a scientist and he's also an atheist. So let's see what he got to say.
As a scientist, do you believe in God?
Every description of God that I've heard holds God to be all-powerful, very typical, and all good. And then I look around and I see a tsunami that killed 250,000 people in Indonesia, an earthquake that killed 250,000 people in Haiti, and I see earthquakes and tornadoes and disease, childhood leukemia, and I see all of this and I say, I do not see evidence of both of those being true simultaneously. If there is a God, the God is either not all-powerful or not all good. It can't be both. But I'm evidence-driven.
You need evidence.
More than I'm faith-driven. To be faith-driven and try to create legislation on that affects other people who don't share your faith, that's the beginnings of a theocracy. And we have evidence of what that is in the past, and our founding fathers specifically founded this country to prevent that from happening.
This dude.
So many things. You can start.
So I want to start with the main point that he's trying to make. He's saying that God is either not all powerful or he's not all good, but he can't be both, right? He doesn't understand. Obviously, he doesn't understand because he's an atheist, right? But you have to understand the character of God, right? Yes, God is all powerful, but this doesn't mean God is a dictator. So when you're trying to say, well, there's tsunamis and there's earthquakes and there's tornadoes and there's hurricanes and there's diseases and there's cancer, there's all these type of things, right? This is just a result of a fallen world. This is just a result of consequences, right? These are consequences that have come into the world, right? This doesn't negate that God is still all powerful, but he's not a dictator. He's not going to, like, if I decide to, pick up this computer right now and throw it, he's not going to be like, oh, no, that's a bad idea. I'm going to jump in front of the camera and stop you from throwing the camera, right? Because God doesn't intervene with your free will. This is what people who are atheists that don't understand the character of God, they don't understand the true meaning of free will. Free will truly means that just because I'm all powerful, just because God is all powerful, does not mean he's going to intervene with your free will. He's not going to allow himself to intervene with your free will, because that goes against his nature. And he's not a God that lies. And because he's not a God that lies, he says, I gave you free will because I love you. So what does that mean? That means even if you choose to rebel, even if you choose to hate, even if you choose to do X, Y, and Z, I will not intervene, because that then means I'm a lying God, and I'm a God that contradicts, and I'm a God that goes out of my nature, and he's not that. So he's not going to intervene with the free nature and the free will of our world. So this doesn't negate that he's all powerful. I'll give you an example, right? 2 + 2 = 4, right? But does that mean 2 + 2 is the only way to get to 4?
No, you got 1 + 1 + 1 + 1.
You can have, exactly, you can, or you can have 5 - 1 that could equal 4. So you have multiple different examples that can give you 4. So it's not, it has to, he's trying to make a scenario where he's saying only 2 + 2 = 4. No, that's not the case. This is just a scenario where it says 2 + 2 does equal 4, not only 2 + 2 = 4, because 4 + 1, I mean, sorry, 3 + 1 could equal 4. You know, 5 - 1 could equal 4. There's multiple scenarios that could equal 4. So God can still be all powerful in a different circumstance, in a different scenarios, all these different scenarios that happen. So he can still be all powerful. That doesn't negate that. Now let's talk about all good, right? Only a actual true good God will allow suffering, will allow consequences, will allow all these different things to happen. You know why? Because he is good, he can redeem the suffering. He can redeem the struggles. Only a limited God or only a false God will say, I only will allow good things to happen because I don't know how to fix bad stuff. When something goes wrong, I don't know how to fix it, right? It's the same thing like what people say about, like, for example, a man who can't work, not good for nothing, right? What's the point of having a man who can only do certain things? If he can't do X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, he's only a third of a man, right? So God is telling you my character, and he's telling you his goodness by allowing suffering, by allowing consequences, by allowing disasters, because he says, even in these events of disasters and suffering, I can fix those things because I am good and because I am sovereign. I allow these things out of your free will as a human being, but because I'm good, I'm going to make sure you overcome these things. Just like slavery, people were in slavery 400 years, right? He could have left that in people's hearts for eternity until the day the earth passes, to keep people in slavery until the day people pass away. But eventually he gets into the hearts of people who overturn these doctrines, who overturn these laws, redeeming people from slavery, getting people out of slavery, right? Because you know why? These people who redeem these laws, they say, well, man did that. No, do you not understand? In order for someone to change something that happens that's a law, they have to have a heart posture change. So if the law says black people are only 3/5 of a person, right? And that's a law, that means someone who believed this in their heart allowed this law to happen. And only a person who knows God will say, in my heart, I know this is wrong, because God told me we're all images of him. So this is wrong. Only a person who has this in their heart will want to overturn that. That's a redeeming God. So yeah, God can be good and all powerful at the same exact time.
Absolutely. And y'all know, if y'all haven't caught on by now, I'm not as gracious as Malik is, and he's much more educated than me. He's much more well spoken. So we'll just let that cat out the bag. What I would say is, okay, I ain't even about to give it to you. I ain't even gonna give it to you, sir. What I'm gonna tell you is, okay, you don't like the world because it's suffering and tornadoes and earthquakes and babies dying. And I agree with you. It's horrible. It's horrible. But you're saying that you're mad at God because of suffering in the world, and then there's no God and there's still suffering in the world. Are you okay? Like, we got to start using our brains. He's explaining some type of scientific theology to say, oh, there is so much suffering, so much this, so much that. There's only one place that I believe exists without God. And that place is gnashing of teeth. And what's the other part? Gnashing of teeth. I know that part. And that ain't where I'm trying to be. So what I'm saying is, if you want to experience a world without God, keep on the path you on and you'll see it. But if you don't, please understand that we are here suffering because of our own actions, because God's intention was to create a world of perfection. Due to the human condition, due to our own wickedness, we suffer. You don't have to take accountability if you don't want to take accountability. It's just true. Like, I really get tired of the my feelings. That's fine. We all suffer. Some suffer on the grandest scale possible, and some suffer so minusculely. But at the end of the day, we all suffer.
And we all got to answer to him regardless. No
we
matter
all have
like
to be judged. We all have suffering. We all have life. We're all enduring life. And does that mean that everything is just peaches and rainbows? No. And does that mean that we shouldn't care? No. That none of those things have to do with God, though, because God's allowance is only because human sin has entered the world. If it was up to God, if Adam and Eve did not betray God, then we would be perfect.
We'll be in a perfect
We'd be walking
world.
around here and not worry about nothing, which is what he wanted for us. But guess what? Even after we betrayed, even after sin has entered the world, even after we did what we did, and now we're paying for those actions as a whole, y'all be wanting to separate yourself. Well, I'm not human. Well, I'm sorry, you are. So just like everybody else, you gonna suffer. We all suffering. But what I will say is, because God is so gracious and good, we get another chance at it. We get another chance at a perfected world that we all are desiring, right? He's talking about a world that's so corrupt that it has tornadoes and this and that and this. Well, if you want to experience a perfect world, guess what? There's one guy that'll get you there.
You better believe.
You better believe.
That's a perfect point that you just made, actually, which is you're saying there can't be a God because there's suffering in the world, right? People suffer. There's disasters, all these different things, diseases. So there can't be a God. So let's just take your logic, Mr. Neil. Let's take your logic and say, oh, you're right. So there's suffering and diseases. That means there's no God. Let's take your logic. If you say there's no God, Mr. Neil, right? Is there still suffering here? If you wake up tomorrow because he doesn't believe, Mr. Neil doesn't believe, right? When you wake up tomorrow, Mr. Neil, there's still going to be suffering. So you're choosing to believe in there's no God, and there's still going to be suffering tomorrow when you wake up. Instead of suffering, he's not. I don't even think that's what I'm saying. They're overthinking because he's a scientist and he's overthinking, he's overanalyzing everything. In his mind, he's like, this makes sense. But if you just ask the simple question, how does it make sense to say there's no God because there's suffering? And if there's no God in my head, there's still suffering. That makes sense.
Well, that's what I'm trying to. That's the point that I'm trying to explain. Like,
it's illogical.
God elevated the meek, the small, the Davids, the shepherd boys, to make them king. Y'all have to understand that you are not defined by your intellectual level. You are not defined by how many books you've read. You are not defined by any of those things. You are defined by your wisdom and the posture of your heart, which is love. And through that, God will reveal all things to you, to where even when you're talking to the smartest person you've ever met, you can still make conductive points towards your goal, which is always going to be the person you're speaking to, their salvation and understanding and love of Jesus Christ. You can do that. It's the highest level of thinking. They might not think so, but I know so, because when I'm speaking, I don't care how many big words you've used and how many solar systems you've examined and how many times that you looked at the timeline and looked at the historical events. I'm glad that you can hold all that in your head, but let me tell you about all I can hold in my heart. I know that there's a God that loves me so much and loves you so much that he died and he gave you a second chance at life. So everything that you are complaining about in this life, everything that you suffer from, he has a way for you to get what he intended. Because he could just say, you know what, you messed up, I'm done. You know what, you betrayed me, I'm done. But instead, he gives you another chance because that's how gracious he is. Now let's go ahead and get to the theocracy. That's just utterly insane to me. Is he for real? Theocracy? That's a theocracy. Do you know that our entire civilization and existence operates the way it does based on the absolute moral law? The Constitution is a moral, majority of things people, and Malik says this, he says, you know, people are not smart enough to come up with all this stuff on their own. No, they're not. No one came up with this stuff. Do you know society functions in the way it does because we all have a common heart posture, because we were all created, sorry, not heart posture, a common moral compass, because we were all created in God's image, and that's embedded in all of us, whether you acknowledge it or not. We all know that killing is wrong. We all know that anything abusing children is wrong. We all understand absolute horror. We know this is not right. So through that, we have established a civilization that functions away from savagery, away from, you know, the caveman and barbaric things, because intellectually we're advancing to expound on the moral law that God gave us. So to say a theocracy, do you know that back in the day, let's take it all the way back when the religious rulers ruled, things had a certain type of don't play with me. Mm-hmm. And that ain't happening today. Will I say better or worse? I can't tell y'all better or worse. I won't speak on what I don't know. I can't tell y'all better or worse, but what I will say is there was a don't play with me in place where people had a certain level of respect and a certain level of understanding when it came to God.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what it was.
If you said anything crazy back then, you said, they what? Oh no, they need to, yeah, they finna get banished. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were actually God-fearing. They were afraid of disappointing God. So if they saw someone doing something in the act that would disappoint God, they said, "Oh no, they gotta get out of this town. Nope, they gotta get out of here." And it blows my mind to see people try to blame God for suffering. And you know why it blows my mind? I actually got in an argument with somebody on TikTok this morning about it.
He does, yeah. He does.
Man, because they a lot of people try to blame God for suffering, right? But the logic that they use makes zero sense. Their logic, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. The logic that you use to say, well, suffering is happening, so that's God's fault, right? That's like saying if a man, let's say John, right? Let's say John has a son, right? And his son grows up and he decides to go out and commit a crime, you know. Let's say he decides to rob a bank. Let's say John's son grows up and he decides to rob a bank, right? Do you think it makes logical sense for us to say, we look at the camera and we say, hey, that's John's son that just robbed that bank. Yeah, we need to go to John's house and we're about to go arrest John. What? Why are you going to arrest John when his son is the one that went to go rob the bank, not John? That's the same illogical sense that you're trying to make of trying to say we should blame God for all this suffering. So you're not going to blame yourself for getting a woman pregnant out of wedlock and now you got baby mama trouble. That's not God's fault. That's your fault.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
you shouldn't blame God for your choices and then try to look at him and say, this is your fault. No, he gave you the blueprint and said, don't do this, because if you do this, there's consequences. This is the reason why I call it sin, because there's consequences for these actions, and I'm trying to prevent you from doing these things. So you say, why does God say we shouldn't get married? We shouldn't have sex out of wedlock? And then you end up with a disease, and he like, that's the reason why I told you. I told you not to do it so you don't end up with a disease. Why did God tell us not to have sex out of wedlock? Because now you in court with 3 kids that you can't see because you're on child support because you never married this woman. He's trying to warn you, but you're not listening and you're trying to blame him. That doesn't make sense. So from now on, what we're going to start doing is, parents, when your kid grow up and if they commit a crime, we're going to take the parent to jail, right? It makes no sense.
Journey.
That makes zero sense. It doesn't make sense.
This is what I'm saying. y'all got to stop doing that. Like, we got to stop. You walk around and you got something incurable. You going to jail because of something you did. You have some type of issues in life, and you say, God, why? And God looking at you like,
I told
are
you.
you
Why.
serious? Or like,
Yeah.
I swear, I think God has a sense of humor, and I really do feel like this is a regular position for him. Like, what? Like, when he hear his name a lot of times, I know he'd be like, what? Like, are
Yep.
y'all for real?
He'd
Because
be like, God said. He'd be like, I did not say that.
why? God said, God told me. God be like this. What? Like, no, I didn't. And the thing, we really have to start asking ourselves, like, what's going on up here? What's going on up here where you lack a
Nah,
sense
you
of
might
accountability?
have been talking to that serpent. That's what you was doing.
You're doing something. You lost. We really are lost at a lot of times, and you have to take a step back to understand that there is an accountability that's necessary. But blaming God when God told you got two ways to live. He gave you two ways. You can live by instruction that I gave you in this really pretty book that's still around. Before I give you the two instructions, before I give you the two ways you can live, one thing I just want to throw in is that every single cult leader, good guy, believe a person who believed this, theologist, whatever, every single one that led major movements, they died, and whatever they taught died. It's true. Everybody who's believing this, and that, and once the leader's gone, all that disintegrates because that's the human condition. We ain't got no loyalty. We only care about ourselves, and we care about being associated with groups that make us feel important. Once the leader of that group dies, the whole movement behind it dies. Once some type of scandal comes out about the top, the bottom crumbles. But still, Jesus Christ prevails. Okay, back to my 2 points about how we live. Instruction or your free will to express experience. God gave you instruction in that beautiful book you got over there that you never touched, that got a little dust on it. And God gave you free will. And through that free will, you don't want the free will, which is so crazy to me. We don't want free will. We don't want to be able to do the evil things and wicked things of our heart. We want God to say, you're not going to do it. And if you do it, you're going to hell. Like, we want that, because if you didn't, you wouldn't blame God for telling you, for giving you what he told you he was going to give you. Why are we suffering? Why do people do this? Why are people hateful? It's so much hate in the world. Look who's living in it. Look who's the highest being that walks this earth. Physically, the highest beings that walk this earth are us. We are the intelligence and the authority of earth. And we talk about the wickedness and evil and don't look at ourselves. And so through instruction, God told you how to live, and he told you how to be, and he told you what to do. You know what I'm saying? But through your experience, you will learn why he told you how to be and what to do and how to live. You will learn why. But either way, you're going to learn today. You're going to learn why he told you to do the things he told you, or you just gonna be wise enough, not smart enough, don't use smart, wise enough to say, I'm gonna read that Bible and I'm gonna say, oh, y'all got that? Y'all got that? Because this here,
this guy right here, Casper, he's going on a rant about God creating evil and inheriting crimes and all this different stuff, right? So you're misquoting the Bible when it's talking about evil. There's a passage, I know exactly what you're talking about. When it's talking about God creating evil, the translation is actually calamity, right? It's basically a sense of he allows suffering and evil to happen because he's sovereign. And like I said, he's a redeemer. And because he's a redeemer, he can allow suffering. He can allow consequences to happen because he can redeem you from these things. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. I can't. So if I choose to go beat up my mom and say God made me do it, I'm lying. God didn't create my two hands to go beat up my mom. That's lying. You're saying, oh, God created this. These are my hands, and God created me to go beat up my mom. No, that's a lie. You chose to go beat up your mom, and therefore the consequences of this is jail. He's not going to put up a mirror between you right before you punch your mom's face and put up a mirror and say, no, don't do that, because you have free will. Because you have free will, you can choose to do good with your free will, but you can also choose evil with your free will. So it doesn't negate the fact that God is still sovereign. It doesn't negate the fact that God is still good. It only just proves his point of not contradicting his nature, which is he says he created you out of love, and out of love he gave you free will. And if he goes against that, then you'll say God is a dictator. See, the problem is you guys want to blame God no matter what he does. No matter what he does, if he intervenes with your free will, you say he's a dictator. He's not a good God, because a good God wouldn't dictate what I do. But then when he doesn't intervene, you say he's evil because he didn't intervene with this. He's evil. That doesn't make sense. He's an evil person because he didn't intervene with the things that I did wrong. He should have stopped me from doing something wrong. Then you're being illogical. It doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
But let's get to the Joe Rogan. Let's get to the Joe Rogan.
Well, I was trying to address Casper in my own
Oh,
thoughts.
go ahead.
I really do think that you have to understand, and I think we should stamp this statement, the character of God. Because you don't understand the character, you are continuing to say God creates evil when evil is just a corruption of good. And if God is good, then who can corrupt the good? Who has the ability to corrupt good? People. But because you are blind and you lack a sense of accountability as a person, because you have a misjudgment of your own heart posture and your own righteousness, you blame God. Because blaming God means he made me do it. And if God made me do it, then I really don't have any accountability for the things I do. Exactly. And that's where
I can just throw all the accountability on him.
That's a cowardice cop-out. If you want to say God creates evil, then you have to also back that up by saying, but God gave us free will. So, and again, God did not create evil, but even if God did create evil, you have free will to not express evil. Exactly. And yet we still do.
We still do
so
it.
You have to start to ask yourself, when will I stop blaming anyone else, especially God, because I only exist by the grace of God? Instead of doing that, you have to start asking yourself, when will I try to learn how to be righteous and good? And here's a jump scare. Here is a spoiler alert. You'll never be good. You'll never be righteous enough. So therefore, Jesus Christ came to give you a binding between the gap between your heart and where you will lack and his perfection. And that's why he's so good. Take it or leave it, Casper.
And based off of the logic that he's giving, right? Let's put it in sense for people to understand, right? Mother and father, right, are the creators of their children, right? Mother and fathers are the creator of their children. So if you have a mother and a father that create a son, right, and that son decides to do something evil, should we go and blame that creator? Let's say that son decides again to go rob a bank, right? Is the judge going to call the parents and say, hey, y'all created this son, and since y'all created this son, he robbed a bank, y'all need to come up to this courthouse because we taking y'all to jail? Does that make sense? That makes zero sense.
An evil spirit, read Samuel. See, and you just and before you said this, right before you said this, Casper, you said, I do understand the character of God. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying to you. And I'm not saying this because you
no, see, he's not even listening. He said, should we blame children for a crime their parents did? You're not listening. You're blaming the creator. You're blaming God. God is a creator. So what we're saying is, if your parents are creators of the children, because obviously you don't believe in God because you're just talking all types of crazy. So we're saying, we're putting in terms you can understand. If children come from their parents, that means their parents created them. But if the children grow up to commit a crime, by your logic, we should take the parents to jail, not the children. By your logic, because you're saying God is the reason for people doing evil.